As you can see, the problem with the way up the ladder of language levels is too much work. Don't like it, do you? The only possible alternative can be to go the other way, from the sentence to the phrase and back to the words from the columns. Underlining the key words was the task that, in a sense, skipped one level in my book of reference. A more intuitive way of preparing a text for reading was dividing it into phrases first. This is the route I actually followed to record this video, for instance. 1. Write a script. Actually type the text as if talking to an actual audience, modeling the possible reaction in the mind if it comes naturally, or even just saying what we have to say, regardless of the possible reaction. 2. Reread it and make corrections, edit the content of the text. This point is still pretty weak in my workflow. This is why the videos are still far from perfect. If you have ideas on how to fix it, feel free to share your ideas about it. Maybe you can look at the problem from a different standpoint. After all, there are other levels of language. 3. Just read the text to yourself, silently or out loud, as you like, as if you're making a presentation, slowly and mindfully. Every time you make a pause in your reading, put the cursor at the place of the pause and press Enter. This way, the text starts to look like a poem, or more precisely, like a sound wave. Why? Most language learners, including me, read like this. Breathe in as much air as possible and start to read until no air is left in their lungs, or until they can't hold it in anymore because they don't know how to pronounce the word in front of them and have forgotten how important it is for their well-being to breathe. I'm exaggerating here, but very few people are really thinking about phrasing while they read. It's important though, and really shows your understanding of the text. Again, breathe in as much air as possible and start to read until no air is left in their lungs, or until they can't hold it anymore because they don't know how to pronounce the word in front of them and have forgotten how important it is for their well-being to breathe. I'm exaggerating here, but very few people really think about phrasing while they read. It's important though, and really shows your understanding of the text. The place you make a pause, the rhythm of your reading, is something that makes a listener involved in the game of listening and making sense of what is heard. 4. Only then do you go to underlining the stressed words. It's the next level of the phonetic system, the phrase stress. Sometimes I did it while writing the text already, but it's okay to do it afterwards. There is one principle in language teaching methodology, one difficulty at a time. Then you can work on different levels of form and meaning independently, and you can definitely change the meaning of a sentence by altering its stress structure. Remember Kazinek's example with the fable called Larchik and its last line. Try shifting the stressed word around and check out how the meaning of the whole poem changes. 5. Then you write the intonation, whether it goes up or down. This completes the strictly linguistic sculpturing of the text for reading. However, we're talking about a creolized text here. So, there are some more levels that are worth mentioning. 6. You open PowerPoint, Prezi, OpenBoard, or any other software for making presentations and make slides to illustrate the text, make its content more vivid. There are many things I'd like to say about this point, but not this time. I'll only say that you should put the number of the slide in the text and be careful about the place of the square brackets with the number relative to the text itself. It could be a nice expressive means to make your presentation multifaceted and work on more than one level. 7. You record the text, that is, make it into an audio file. No video yet. There's a longer way before you can do it and live. Again, record an audio file and edit it. Choose the variants of reading that you like most. They may be different from what you had planned. It's a good thing. Then you are beginning to find your own actual voice, not the one you imagine as your voice. It's important that you work on the recording very thoroughly. I'll probably make a separate video about it. You clean out all the clicks, sighs and coughs. Work on the pauses between phrases and sentences. All of it can be perfected in post, using programs like Audacity or similar ones. Then, there are two options depending on the type of video you want. If you don't want the whole video to have your face in it, you can make it one way, 8.A. If you want to make it look like a real conversation with the audience, you can make it another way, 8.B. 8.A. Open the recording of your text in an audio player. Upload your text with the slide numbers to your phone or another computer/screen in case you have two screens. Turn on the presentation in PowerPoint. Turn on OBS or another program for capturing desktop video. For example, Bandicam. Start recording your desktop in OBS. Start the recording of your text. You can put your headphones on. Open your presentation and follow the text on your mobile phone with the slide numbers. Try to switch the slides following the recording and the text with slide numbers. Basically, 8A is about you being your own assistant. It's like when you're at a conference. Some people say, "Next slide, please," every time they need a next slide. I mean, it's okay, but a much more thoughtful way to do it is just give the text with slide numbers in it to your PowerPoint assistant. It makes the whole thing much more convenient and looks more sleek. If you follow the steps from 8.A, you get the same effect working alone. An alternative way, 8B. Open the recording of your text in an audio player, on your mobile phone, or other kind of player. Note bene. Only today did I think about using Express Scribe as a prompter or a teleprompter. Put your headphones on. Don't listen to your real voice, only to the recording. Try to listen and repeat at the same time. This is what I'm doing right now. It's a great exercise for simultaneous interpreting and also for your listening skills in general. Turn on your webcam recorder. It can be an inbuilt one, OBS, or Bandicam, just as you wish. Start the recording in your headphones, listen and repeat at the same time. If you fail to repeat some phrases, you can rewind the recording and correct your mistakes. This is why Express Scribe is the greatest. The bad takes can be cut out using any video editing software. After you've made a decent video of yourself speaking to the camera, do the same thing as in 8A. Start a separate recording session in OBS. Start the webcam video recording of your text on your phone or PC. You can put your headphones on. You need to just listen to it. Open your presentation and follow the text with the slide numbers on your mobile phone. Try to switch the slides following the recording and the text with the slide numbers. In a video editor, put your webcam video over the slide video. You can combine 8.A with 8.B, like I did with video 2. It's not too difficult if you don't do it alone. Dividing the roles helps. One person can write a script, the second one can phrase it, the third one can make slides. There could be other roles of editors and critics. So, this whole process can turn into a fun experience. We've had a very inspiring conversation with one of my students. Making the tape script of it is in progress. The student also never responded in any form after receiving half of the tape script. I still wonder why. The reason why I'm telling you all this is that we could still do at least one fully productive task together. And that could be your exam task. Here's how I see it. 1. Remember what we did last semester. I asked you to write 2 or 3 situations based on the topics that we'd covered in our live classes. This semester, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing. Obviously, we haven't covered any of the topics I had planned. This could still be interesting. You could construct your situations using only your first impression of this or that topic from the textbook. This kind of situation design actually reminds me of the sheet towel method of painting I described earlier. 2. After you've written the situation, I work on the exam ticket for a while. 1 or 2 days, and then we could either distribute them randomly, or you could even choose the ticket by the author. It wouldn't be entirely against the rules of the exam, because there is no possible way of you to cheat in these circumstances. 3. You write your answer down as a text. 4. We have a conversation in Zoom, one-on-one, discussing your answers. 5. You edit your text according to the results of this Zoom conversation. 6. You sculpture your text according to the route described in 8A or /and 8B. This could be a lot of fun. Before we do this, with your text though, I wanted to give you a task to learn how professional actors read a great piece of literature. There is a very good listening and speaking task in Headway. Unit 2, dedicated to Oscar Wilde. I've been waiting for us to discuss it this year, but we never had a chance to do it. We checked out some of the quotations from page 22, remember? There is no such thing as an immoral book. Books are well written or badly written. The quotation that summarizes everything I have to tell you this year. There are some tasks about Oscar Wilde's life, but it's beside the point really. I hope you've had a chance to listen to or read this essay on literature by Marcel Proust. I'm not going to talk about it too much here, but the gist of it would be this. The author is born within his own work, and to understand the work, you don't really need to know anything that happened before or after the work, if it's a good one, of course. So, we could skip exercises 2 and 3, unless, of course, you disagree with my point, in which case, you are free to do these tasks and try to establish your point. I'll be delighted if you do so. The last remark brings us to one absolutely legitimate and valid question. Why do extra work? Isn't it enough to just get a pass at the exam, getting my diploma, and getting as far away from this damn place called university as possible? Could be. I mean, for most people, education is a waste of time anyway. So go ahead and waste it. The problem is that gathering it back when you realize its nature is so inhumanly hard that most of us prefer to suffer immeasurably at the quarantine, pretending we're either bored or doing something extremely important, rather than to just bring back to life a second of the time lost in vain. As one person recently told me, any art begins beyond the sufficient. Still thinking about it. Anyway, if we have a live class, this is what we would do. We would do exercise 4. Listen to the scene from The Importance of Being Earnest. Answer the questions. We would do exercise 5. Read and listen to it again, then answer the questions. And if it wasn't for distance education, we would just have fun, discussing the old hag, and simply ignore the fact that nobody understands the nature of this exercise. Read and listen. Not a single teacher knows what to do with this exercise. I mean, angry comments from my colleagues, fellow teachers, are more than welcome. But let's face it, not a single student ever does both parts of this exercise. One school teacher got really curious about how to organize the work on this kind of exercise during distance learning. Children just read the text and never even listen to it. Even if they do, nice, diligent students, it doesn't really change anything, as there are no special tasks or hints aimed at how to use the listening aspect of this kind of exercise. The problem of doing exercise 4 and 5 alone is that a language learner doesn't know how to check the correctness or incorrectness of the answers, without actually checking the answers at the back of the book. The task itself doesn't respond to you, doesn't let you experience its fulfillment. Like, do you remember an old Soviet cartoon about a kid who solves mathematical problems willy-nilly and gets answers like, it takes 1.5 diggers to dig the hole? I don't really remember the exact cartoon, just recall the face on the kid when he falls asleep and sees the poor 1.5 diggers. Childhood traumas. Anyway, there should be some concrete evidence for this or that answer. At first, we rely only on our instincts or the sense of language. We could learn to do it more professionally. What linguistics and methodological tools could we use to make sense of this kind of exercise? Help Dora, you know the rest. I call it the Oscar Wilde listening exercise. 1. Do exercises 4 and 5 just by listening to the scene. 2. Open a Word document with the text of the scene. 3. Listen to the text again and mark all the pauses in the text. Does this remind you of anything we've talked about today? Right. The route I'd like you guys to follow when you work on preparing your texts for reading but aimed at your perception skills more. I'll repeat. 3. Just listen to the text again, putting the text on hold in your audio player. You could use Express Scribe for this. Slowly and mindfully. Every time an actor makes a pause in his or her reading, put the cursor at the place of a pause in the text you had opened and press Enter. This way, the text starts to look like a poem and blah blah blah. 4. Underline the stressed words in the phrases you get after task 3. You can use 2 lines to mark fully stressed words, 1 line for the words with secondary stress, and any other kind of line you need to mark other degrees of stress. This whole line thing is for deeper understanding of the art of reading. It also begins beyond the sufficient. Nota bene, it doesn't even have to be underlining. You can do as I actually do. Change the typeface of the font in Microsoft Word. Put the words in bold by pressing Ctrl+B for primary stress and Ctrl+B followed by underlining a word to add more emphasis. Experiment with it as you like. There is no unified system of doing it, at least the one I'm aware of. Wait, could it be an example of a practically oriented linguistic research? No, I guess we just have to muscle through a couple of more years and just forget all about it. 5. Then you write the intonation, whether it goes up or down, using these symbols. It took me quite a long time to write the script, and I had to go sleep. Right before going to bed, I had a nice idea about a full version of this task. It would be much more useful if we add one more step. Before you listen to the actor's recording of the text, and «снимите его», that's a term from a musician's thesaurus. This is one of the hardest words for me to translate. It means to listen to a piece of music and transcribe, write on paper or simply memorize all the notes, peculiarities of touch and accent, intonation and timbre that one can hear and become aware of. Come to think about it, this could be translated into English as to transcribe. However, something is clearly lost in this translation. I'll repeat. It would be much more useful to add one more step before you listen to the actor's recording of the text and transcribe it. And that step is to try and sculpture or interpret the text yourself. The thing I omitted earlier when verbalizing this task, it's actually a good idea when you try to answer the questions in exercises 4, 5, relying on your general impression and the words that the actors are saying. It would be the first level of your interpreting the text. In language teaching methodology, this is what the model of reading or listening exercises looks like. The first time you read or listen, you are to get the general idea of the text. The second time you read or listen, you are to get some specific information. The third time you read or listen, you are to get the full understanding of the text. Then, why can't we also move towards the full understanding from the two different modalities of perception, reading and listening? First you listen and discover one aspect of the text. Then you read, with a similar task aimed at discovering some aspects of the text on the same level of understanding that could have evaded your attention while only listening, and so on. Again, listening for the first time without reading or conducting any analysis helps you answer certain questions in a naive kind of way. The next logical step would be to read the same text and try to interpret it the way you would interpret it. How do you do it? By phrasing it, underlining the key words and putting intonation marks over them. Then you can compare your naive answers with your structured reading and maybe even see the basis of your own answers. Then you listen to the actors and transcribe and see how other people have interpreted the text. This actually opens up the space for communication in a very subtle and meaningful way, not only with the authors of the Headway textbooks, but also with your group mates that also do a similar task. So, the full task list of this exercise will look something like this. 1. Do exercises 4 and 5 just by listening to the scene from The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde. 2. Open a Word document with the text of the scene. 3. Read the text to yourself, silently or out loud, as you like, slowly and mindfully. Every time you make a pause in your reading, put the cursor at the place of the pause and press Enter, thereby dividing the text into meaningful phrases. Nota bene, you could even swap steps 1 and 3. It could make even more sense. You know what? Leave it as it is. 1, 2, then 3. The task says, listen and read. Who are we to change its nature so dramatically? 4. Underline the stressed words in the phrases you get after task 3. Try shifting the stressed word around and check out how the meaning of the whole phrase changes. 5. Then you write the intonation, whether it goes up or down. 6. Save these documents 2 times. 7. Open the second copy and listen to the scene performed by the actors once again. Mark all the pauses in the text as explained in point 3. You could use Program's Express Scribe for this. 8. Underline the stressed words in the phrases you get after task 7. You can use 2 lines to mark fully stressed words, 1 line for the words with secondary stress, and any other kind of line you need to mark other degrees of stress. This whole line thing is for deeper understanding of the art of reading and might go beyond the sufficient a little bit. 9. Then you write the intonation after the actors, whether it goes up or down. This completes the strictly linguistic perception of the text, sculptured by a professional sculptor of texts. Once you've finished this sequence of tasks, you'll see how to use this new level of awareness of form and meaning to check your answers to exercise 4 and 5 on page 22-23. I mean, just compare the 2 texts in the documents. You can do exercises 6 and what do you think as well. They will start to make much more sense when you've finished the sequence of prosodic analysis of the text. This is all I have to say for you today. Have fun, but don't forget, делу время, потехе час. How do you translate that, I wonder? This time, I would expect some feedback from my target audience. If you have any questions, ideas, suggestions, or comments of any kind, feel free to write them VK or DO3, maybe even YouTube. At least tell me this. Which variant of the tasks described in this video you find most useful and productive? For now, it's time to part. See you.